Hello, everybody. So what we're going to be doing today is the Lab 2. So if you look at Lab 2 right now, it says video of Lab 2, Zoom recording needs to be re-recorded. So that's what we're doing now is I am re-recording this. So when I do this, let's just download this. This is what we have. So in this lab, what we're going to be doing is kind of learning how to use a math function. I think we're going to be doing something very similar in Lab 3 as well. But basically, here's the idea. So we have a sphere, and there's two things you can calculate for a sphere. Well, there's more than two, but we're going to do two. And the first thing we might want to do is calculate the surface area. The other thing we might want to do with a sphere is we might want to calculate the volume. So if you want more information about this, then go ahead and just kind of, we'll just Google for this. So go here and we'll type surface area, for example, and, if you just want to know what we're talking about. Right. So the surface area of a three-dimensional object is the total area of all its faces. So like that's the area on the outside, right? And the volume, of course, I'm not going to bother explaining, but volume is volume. So we have this. So if you wanted to calculate the surface area of a sphere, then the formula is this, 4 pi r squared, right? And the r, the radius, is this measurement here. And if you want to calculate the volume of a sphere, it's this formula, which is 4/3 pi r cubed. Yeah, so this is a cubic unit. So like inches cubed, cubic inches, which is a unit of volume, whereas this is a square unit, right? R squared. So that would be like square inches or something. So yeah, so those are what we're going to calculate basically. So if we scroll through here, we'll have to scroll through a bit. There's instructions for getting this set up and some of the things that you're going to need to do. And then you get to the actual Lab 2, which is this. So we want to write a program for Lab 2 that does this stuff. So it needs to be able to read keyboard input, which we've done before. We want the user to type in the radius, that's the R. And we're going to read it into a double variable. Okay, double is for decimal type numbers instead of whole numbers. Then we want to calculate the surface area and the volume of the sphere using the formulas. Those are the formulas we just looked at. And then we want to print out the answers. And then what you have in this box is just kind of an example of what that might look like. So we're not going to hard code it with 5 for the radius. We're not going to have like radius equals 5. This is just an example of what it would look like if you typed in a 5, right? So the user is going to type in this 5, and then we're going to calculate the surface area, and we're going to calculate the volume. It's not going to look quite like this because there's going to be more decimal places, but that's the idea. And yeah, so we are just going to be basically writing these two formulas, and that's the point. Okay, now in order to do this, I'm going to try to do this a few different ways. So one way, I'm going to use Eclipse, and I'm going to use Replit, and I may even do it a third way. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to open Eclipse. And we'll have this. This is not Lab 2. And I'll also open replit.com, but first I'm going to set up our project here in Eclipse. So if we're setting up the project, remember how to do this. So we want to go to File, New, Java Project. We can give it a name. I'm just going to say Lab 2. I'm going to put a space there just because I see that's how I labeled Lab 0 over here. So we type Lab 2. Space is okay here because this is the project name. Not the class name. Class names can't have spaces. And then down here, we want to make sure that we do not have this box checked for create module info.java. So it's unchecked. And then we hit finish. So then we have a new project here. I'll click the little arrow here to expand that, then click on SRC, and then go File, New, Class. Right, so you click on SRC and then File, New, Class. The rules for classes you have to start with an uppercase variable or uppercase letter, sorry, and there can't be spaces. So I could call it Lab02 like this, or I could call it Lab_02, but something like that. And then I also want to check the box here for public static void main. Okay, there we go. So now we've got a project to write our code in. Now, if you're using replit.com, that looks a little bit different. So I'll go here and I'll go replit.com. And I'm already logged in. The problem that I have right now is if I try to create a new project, they want $120 from me, which I don't want to give them yet. So I'm not doing that at the moment. That's because in the last week, actually like maybe 1 week ago, they changed their policy and you can only have 3 projects live at the same time if you're on a free account. So I apologize, that's new. We'll try to find something better than Replit in the future, maybe. But for now, you're just going to have to work around this restriction if you're using Replit. I would not pay them so much money. They're charging a lot. I can, if I want to get mine down to 3 projects, well, that's a lot of work because I have so many and I have to delete them all. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take whatever this top project is here. And can I run it? Yeah, I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to modify this project into Lab02 because I can't make a new project at the moment. But yeah, so I guess I won't go through the steps. Look at the instructions on Lab0 if you need to know how to make a new project in Replit. Okay, so anyway, we're just looking at a blank project here, just like in Eclipse, we were looking at almost the exact same thing. Okay, so regardless, we're able to start our program now. Okay, now it doesn't matter which one of these I use. I'll just delete this hello world thing. It doesn't matter which one of these you use, so I'll just type it. I guess I'll use replit.com right now and then go to Eclipse when I'm done. So if we are using replit.com or Eclipse, what we need to do first is, well, we should put our name on top. So I'll do that. And maybe I'll put Lab2 just so I know what I'm doing. Maybe I could put the date. Doesn't really matter. Okay. So I've got this project here. We're going to want to read from the keyboard. And because we want to read from the keyboard, we're going to need this line, import java.util.scanner, right? And we need that because that is where the keyboard scanner is. It's not just a keyboard scanner. It can take input from any stream, but streams are not things we've learned about yet. So for us, right now, scanner is just for reading the keyboard. So put this line at the top. Don't forget the semicolon. Don't forget the capital S. Okay, that's step 1 for if we want to read from a keyboard. Now, then inside of your main, right? So inside the curly braces for main, we want to set this up to read from the keyboard. So the other line we need is scanner, capital S again, SCNR. Now this is a variable name, so technically anything works here, but you know, SCNR is what Zybooks does, so we'll stick with it. SCNR equals new scanner, capital S on scanner again, and then in here, capital S, system.in. Okay, and what that is this is for reading from the keyboard. That's what that is. Okay, so at this point, we're ready to read from the keyboard, but we need some variables. So looking back at our lab, what are we going to need? Well, if you think about what kind of variables we're going to need, just in these formulas, we're going to need an R, or you can call it radius, or you can call it R. It's up to you. We don't really need pi. You'll see what I do for pi. We're going to calculate this surface area, so we're going to need a variable for surface area, and we're going to need a variable for volume. So it doesn't really matter how you declare these, but we need to declare them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put the variables here. So they need to be doubles, not integers, because an integer can only be a whole number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So if you want to be able to have a radius of like, 3.4 inches, right? 7.8 inches or whatever it is. If you need the point anything, it needs to be a double. That way you can have decimal places. So double. And what do we need? Well, I'm going to use an R for the radius. I'm going to have an area and a volume. So I'm just going to call it area instead of surface area because I don't want to type that much. So R, area, and volume. Okay, so we need these. Now, I've declared them here all on the same line, but you can, so this is perfectly okay here. If you want to declare them on different lines, you can. That would look like this. So you'd go double, so you'd have to have a semicolon there. Double area, double volume, right? So you can declare them on separate lines like I've just done, or on the same line. Also area, not V area. All right, so we have variables, okay? So those are the variables that we are going to store our numbers in. Once we have that, then we want to actually start our coding here. So looking back at the preview, looking at the document here, you can see what it's supposed to look like is this. So I'm supposed to, well, it says it up here, ask the user to input the radius. So that's this, enter the radius of the sphere. So I need to output this to the screen so that the user knows what to do, right? If you're running the program, you need to read this, enter the radius of the sphere, so you know that you're about to type something in. So I'll just copy that because I'm too lazy to type it again. Come back here. So we want to output that message. So to output a message, that would be system.out.print or print line. I'll use print here. And there we go. I'll put a space there. So that's going to ask the user to enter the radius of the sphere. Now, what's supposed to happen at that point is that the user is supposed to type in a number, like 5 or whatever they want to type in, right? So in order to have the user type in a number, we need to use that scanner, the SCNR. So here's an example of what that might look like. Now, this is a combination of declaring the variable radius and also reading it from the keyboard. So mine's not going to look quite like this one, just because I didn't look at this before I started typing a minute ago. But to read a double from the keyboard, it's going to be just like the highlighted text, SCNR dot next double, and the D will have to be capitalized here. Okay, parentheses, semicolon. So what that'll look like for me is this. Since I've already got the R declared, R is going to be our radius. We would say R equals, and then it's going to be SCNR dot next double, parentheses, semicolon. Okay. Now, right here, our program is not done. We're not doing any calculations yet, but we can just see that this is working because if I hit run and I come over here, you'll see the cursor sitting here. If I click around here in the box, kind of around where that is, you'll see that I can now type in a number here. And when I hit enter, the program will be done running. So I just hit enter and the program's done. Now, just to show you, if I select this text here, I'm not selecting everything, by the way. I'm just selecting what is inside of the main method here. And I copy that. I go over to Eclipse and I put it inside the main method here, then I can run this. Now, I only copied the text inside of the main method, which means I am missing import java.util.scanner. And so if you run this in Eclipse, we would need to save this. So I'll go File, Save. And I run it with run. And you'll see down here in this box, enter the radius of the sphere. And if I click down here, you'll see that the cursor starts flashing. It's waiting for me to type in a number. So I could type like, whatever number I want. And when I'm done, I hit enter. And when I hit enter, that's when this text that said terminated is. So we're now reading a number. So if you look at this, it looks just like in here, this much, right? So this much is now working. So after we have that, then what I want to do is what we have on the third line up here, which is calculate the surface area and the volume of the sphere using the formulas. Okay, so we have these two formulas up here, right? This is the formula for surface area, and this is the formula for volume. So I guess we'll do surface area first, right? Let's do surface area. 4 times pi times r squared. Okay, now I'm going to show you more than one way to do this. Let's go back to the web browser. We'll do it in Replit. So after we do this, I'll add a comment here about what we just did. So this is going to prompt the user to enter radius and read R from keyboard. That's what we just did on those 2 lines. What's next? I'm going to calculate the area, that's the surface area, and volume. Okay, so we want to use those formulas. So I'm going to do the area first. So area equals, and now what I want to put on the other side of the equal sign here is just going to be the formula. So I basically need to figure out how to type this. 4 pi r squared, right? Now, if you were using like a calculator or Wolfram Alpha or something, you'd be able to type it in like this, right? 4 pi, I don't know how to type pi r squared, right? Like it would be something similar to this, but not quite this. And we want to do the same thing here. It's just going to be a little bit more work. So the 4 is easy. All right, 4.0. You could type 4, but there's a reason why I'm not. So I'm going to type 4.0 times, okay, looking back here. So we've done the 4. Now we need the pi. Now there's a couple of ways to get pi. So first of all, let's just say I don't know how to get pi. If you don't know how to get pi in Java, we can just look up pi, not pizza, pi. We can look up pi. It's a constant. This is not really the best way to do it. I can go to Wolfram Alpha. I could type pi there. I'm just trying to look at pi, pizza pie. So, right, we can get as many decimal places as we want from pi. I'm going to go like this. Now, this is not optimal. I'm just going to copy that many digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Whatever. So I'm just going to copy paste that there. That's not the ideal way. I'm going to show you a better way in a minute. But this is the 4. This is the pi. And then we get to the r squared, which looking at here, right, then we need to do the r squared. Now, the thing about r squared is that r squared just means r times r. So here I can type this as r times r, right? So this is a perfectly acceptable way of calculating that area, okay? So this is just kind of one way to do it. But it's not the only way. So another way to do it would be like this, 4.0 times. So one thing is this, you don't really want to have to type in pi yourself. So guess what? Pi is actually built into Java, but in order to get it, it's not just like pi like that, pi. In order to get pi, you have to say math, capital M, math dot capital Pi. That's how you get pi times, and then we could still do R times R if you want. So this is another way. So you don't do both of these, you only do one of them, but this is just another way to compute area. I'm just showing you different way to do it in Java. Okay. Well, what about a third way? Well, guess what? We can start out the same. 4 times math.pi times. Well, this right here, R times R is R squared. If you really want to do that as an exponent, you can, but here's how you would do it as an exponent. You would have to say math dot pow, and you'd have to put an R and 2, basically. You can say 2.0, right? That's how you can get an exponent in Java. Okay. And, you know, these things are easy to look up, right? If I do Java exponent, right, you'll find a lot of things telling you how to do it. You'll notice that they say math.pow is already showing up in here. And you'll see people doing things like math.pow 2 and 3. So math.pow 2, 3 would be 2 to the third power. Okay, so I wanted to do, according to my problem here, R to the 2 power. And so R to the 2 power is like this, math.pow R2. Do that. Okay. So you don't do all 3 of these things, right? You just do either this one or this one or this one, but this is going to be third way to do it. Okay. So you do one of these, and that's going to calculate our surface area. Okay. Now, after we calculate the surface area, we also need to calculate the volume. So I'll calculate the volume. Going back here, this is the formula for volume, 4/3 pi r cubed. So similar, but a little bit different. Here's how I would type it in. So back here, 4/3, you need to type in this way. Okay, you do have to type it in this way. If you type it in this way with no decimal points, you're going to get the wrong answer. And in fact, I will show you that in a minute. But this is how you would type in 4/3, 4 divided by 3, then times, and it was a pi, right? 4/3 pi. So 4/3 pi, math.pi times, and then we have r cubed. Now for the r cubed, we could use a power, or we could just do times r times r times r, right? That's also r cubed. So whatever you want there, this is one way to do it. 4/3 pi r cubed, right? So that would compute the volume. Okay. Now I'm not going to show you 3 different ways for volume, but you could, see that you do have options up here, right, for similar ways to do it. Now, once we've calculated the volume, then what? Well, after we calculate the volume, we want to print out something like this. So we want to say for a sphere with radius blank, right, this number needs to be the same as this number. So it has to be dynamic. The surface area is, in this case, 31416. The volume is 523.6. But we've just calculated those, presumably. So what we want to do is we want to output our answers. So output answers. So if I want to make it look just like that sample or close to the sample, what I need to do is this. So system dot out dot print line. We'll use print lines. And then what do we need? Okay. So in quotes, I want to print this for a sphere with radius blank. I'm going to make it look just like this. So for a sphere with radius blank. Now I'm leaving a blank space here. And then outside of the quotes, I'm putting a plus. And you've done this in the Zybooks if you've been doing the Zybooks. And then if I want to include a radius here, a number right here, I want to output the R. So I'll put R there. Okay. Now right here, I'm going to stop for a second and run this just to see what it looks like. So I'm going to hit run. It says enter the radius of the sphere. I click over here in the box. I'm going to type 5. And it says for a sphere with radius 5. Now, that's as far as it got because, of course, that's the only thing I'm printing. But notice this, right? The 5.0, that's from this plus R here, right? Because the R was 5.0. The rest, the text was in the quotes. If I type in something else, so I'm going to run it again. If I type in something else like 7.9, you see I typed 7.9 and then 7.9 showed up here. So that's how we're getting the number to show up in the variable. We don't type the 5 in here or anything like that. We use the variable name. Okay, so that's how we did this line. Now we want to do this line. So this line's supposed to say the surface area is, and then whatever the surface area is. So the way we'll do that is coming back here, just copy this whole line, paste it, and we'll fix it. So for a surface area, for a sphere with radius blank, we'll say the surface area is, and then instead of doing plus R, we want to fill in the number for what the surface area is, which the surface area is in the variable called area. So I'll say area like that. And we'll copy that again, paste it again, and the volume is, and instead of area, we will print out the volume. Okay, and that should basically do it. So we're going to fill in these numbers, the radius, the area, and the volume when we print out these lines. So it should all be done now. I'm going to just kind of clear the console. Oops, I closed the console. Let's see if I run it and it comes back. Oh, me clear. Okay. So enter the radius of the sphere. So if I type in 5, for example, you'll see it now. It prints out for a sphere with radius 5.0. The surface area is 314 point bunch of stuff. And the volume is 523 bunch of stuff. Okay, did it. So that's the whole lab. Okay, that's the whole lab right there. Now, if we want to make this work in Eclipse, we can. I'm going to copy everything inside the main again. So I'm leaving these curly braces down here uncopied. I'm only copying the stuff that's in here. You can do it different if you want. Then in Eclipse, I'll just delete all this and put it there. Okay, so this is the same program, just in Eclipse now. And so if I run it here, so I'll have to save it and run it. And it says enter the radius of the sphere. We could type in 5 again, but I'll type in a different number. So we'll say 8.3 or enter. So you see it works the same. I type in a number and it will do the calculations for me. Notice that this is not the same surface area and volume anymore because I changed the radius. So the things that we calculated are now different. Okay. So that's basically it. We just need to turn this in. Okay. Now, I guess before I stop, I just want to be clear here. So let me run this again. Run. and I'm going to type in 5 just to show you. So look down here at these numbers. The surface area is 314 point stuff. The volume is 523 point stuff. So remember that 523, okay? Remember 523.59. So I told you that it's important to have those decimals on there. Like, don't take away the 0.0 and the 0.0. So I just did. I'm going to save this and run it. And I'm going to type in the same number. I'm going to type in 5, but we're not going to get 523. You'll see. See, the number down here is different now. Okay. And the reason the number is different is because when Java did this calculation, it does the calculations left to right, and it did 4 divided by 3. And as I'm sure you're aware, right, when you do 4.0 divided by 3.0, if we're using decimals, that's going to be like 1.33333333, right? 4/3. But in Java, when you do this, 4 divided by 3, it assumes that you want integers, right? So this is with doubles, you get this. If you did an integer calculation, you would get 1.333, but with integers, there's nothing after the decimal point. So guess what? All the 0.333s go away and you just get 1. So essentially what's happening is the answer for 4/3 is supposed to be 1.3333. But if you just write it this way, 4 divided by 3, Java thinks you want to do integer calculations, and then 4/3 is only going to be a 1 because there's no decimal point in an integer. Okay, so that's why you can't type it 4/3. You got to type it 4.0, 3.0. And whenever you're dealing with doubles, you should get used to typing in your numbers this way, where if you're typing in a 3, you type 3.0. If you're typing a 4, you type 4.0. Okay, so that's just a comment on that. That's why I put 4.0 up here as well. Now, again, we do not need to calculate the area 3 times. So you just keep your favorite one. It doesn't really matter. I'll keep, I guess I like the second one the best. So we'll do that. And there we go. So we have our calculations here. I run it. Oh, I have to save it. So proceed. Wait, what's the error? What'd I delete? What mistake did I make? Oh, I typed this stuff down here and it's nonsense. Okay, delete that. Save it again, run it again. Okay, so this is going to work. Every time you run it, you can type in your own number and you can do the calculations and they should be correct. So what you need to turn in is, I believe, the Java file and also a screenshot of this working. Now, as far as screenshotting it, every operating system's a little different. I can do, let's see here. I'm on Mac, so I think it's Shift Command 4. Nope. Shift Option 4. Nope. Shift Option Command 4. F4. What is it? I forgot the screenshot command. Oh no, it was working. Okay, sorry. So on a Mac, it was Shift Command 4, and I've got crosshairs, and I can drag the crosshairs around what I want to screenshot. So you need the screenshot showing it's working, which is what I've got here. So I did that, and it's down here, which will be on my desktop. All right. So then we want to turn this in. If you're using replit.com, remember what you need to do to get the file is in the file section here, expand it, get the main.java, 3 dots, and download. So if you're doing Replit, you have to do that. If you're using Eclipse, then you don't. Okay, so we've done all that. So now what we want to do is turn this in, which I guess I'm going to have to navigate over to the site. And I'll turn it in here. I don't remember what class I started with. It doesn't matter. So we've got lab 2 here. And I'll pretend I'm a student. And we'll go ahead and turn this in. So I'm going to click on, well, so if you're using Eclipse, right, then the way to do it is to have Eclipse open, kind of make it a little bit smaller so you can get it in front of the web browser. And to turn in your Java file, you can drag it from the package explorer here, lab2.java, right over this rocket ship and drop it. And that's how you would turn it in. Now, if you are using, if you're using Replit, then you had to have downloaded your file, which I did. So I have it right here. And I can drag that file over, right? So you don't have both of these, but this is the one that I got from Eclipse, and this is the one that I got from replit.com. So once you have your Java file attached, you still need the screenshot. That's going to be wherever your screenshots are stored. So where is that? I don't know. That depends on your computer. I'm just going to click